Morning, everybody. Welcome to Left to Center, episode 50.
Supposed to say L.
Episode 50.
L.
L is in Lindsay.
L is in loser.
Wow.
Losers.
Wow.
That was a
Good
hell of a way to
good
start
flashing
the
L.
episode.
But like, yeah, it was
Thanks,
really,
man.
it was like
Good
some
work.
serious,
That's
like
some serious
1981 technology.
John
That's
was
why-
having
that's about where
way
we're at.
too much fun.
50 freaking episodes. Like, what?
Not
the hell?
yet.
What are we doing with our life?
We're getting there. That is awesome, John.
It's finally we got a really good guest. Finally,
I am
I'm
pretty
a county
excited.
mayor. I'm County Mayor Hogsett when I say finally. Sorry, Mayor Joe. I'm counting all of our guests. We got US Senator Joe Donnelly as our guest today.
That's exciting.
I think we should knock off after this.
Just
Drop
drop the
This
mic.
is it.
Episode L.
This is
Episode
Drop the
L.
mic.
That's it.
We did 50.
Later. That's what L stands for.
I vote yes to that.
Yeah, we'll just leave.
Like,
We'll just
I
leave.
need some sleep.
I mean, seriously, like we go out on top.
Yeah.
Joe Donnelly.
We'll find out how it goes.
All right.
Lindsay, let's go. We're going to do your thing, and
wow.
then
Do
let's
your
do our
thing.
sponsors so we
Already.
can.
Aren't you ready? You got to
Not
be ready to go
really.
when Kevin snaps
Yeah,
his damn
boom.
fingers. You got to go.
Wow. I don't.
All right, it's too late.
he's
Let's
not
move on.
Whoa.
No, you missed.
I'm feeling really harassed right now.
She's like, I'm feeling pressured.
Listen, I'm with the locomotive on this one. Like, we've got to stick
Thank you.
on
Yep.
schedule
You're
today.
listening to
That
Left
was
of
me.
Center,
By the way-
where we cover everything from politics to important events of the day in the Midwest
like
and
how
the
John said
nation,
that.
all while having too much fun while
It is a
doing
lot
it.
of fun.
If you can't get enough of us, follow us on Facebook at Left of Center Podcast or on Twitter at LockPod, LOCPOD. And if you can't listen in live, download our episodes from the Apple Podcast or Spotify app and enjoy listening to us at a crystal clear 110 kilohertz per second. Just search for Left of Center and look for a red and blue logo. Also, don't forget to subscribe and rate as well on the Apple
My
Podcast and
dude.
Spotify app.
You're
My
supposed to say
dude.
my dude.
Sorry, I do say my dude, don't I?
Yes, you do.
That's just a habit.
I know your thing.
Yep. And then finally, if you have money or business or you're running for office or you just want to give us money, send us an email to leftofcenterpod@gmail.com and we can get your ad sponsorship going
Or-
right away.
Or give us things like the
Or give us
Pinnacle
t-shirts.
sweatshirt that the quarter zip the mayor's got on today.
Quarter zip.
I will pose for you.
What do you call that? Half zip?
Thank you, Rigo, in Pinnacle Concrete Work.
Now just send the check.
We
Rigo.
will wear
That's
your
what I do.
merch.
I will wear it for you.
For
a
It's
good
money.
cheap.
price.
It's about $1,000 an episode.
I did
for
it.
that.
I did it for free for Rigo because he's my boy.
Then he owes me
Going way
$500.
back. He owes, yeah. Rigo, you owe us $2,000 for this posing. I hope you're cool with that. Like, we just priced it out. These great coffee cups that I'm posing with also only smooth $500. I mean, it's really
Get those
really
in
good
no
price.
time.
If you want one, order it. We will special order this
Autograph
cup
by
for
the
$500.
locomotive is only an extra $100.
I like how you guys are calling me the locomotive. I think this
I
is going to stick.
refuse to call you
This
the
is going to
Thank
stick.
you.
This is, I'm getting a tattoo like a locomotive.
Oh, God,
I
no.
refuse
I'm
to
getting it on
call
my
you
lower
that.
back.
A tramp
A
stamp?
No, a stamp
Stamp.
tramp.
Stamp tramp. I'm getting the
Let's
locomotive.
not get confused.
A tramp stamp of Thomas the Tank Engine on his lower
There
back.
you
On
go.
my lower back.
I don't really.
So Mariska
I'm-
see
that's
it.
That's
enough.
adorable.
I want Marissa to see it.
I don't want to even think about that. Can
Good
we do
Lord.
our sponsors?
Yeah, sure.
Metropolitan Steel is a proud union contractor and AISC Advanced Certified Erector with over 60 years of combined experience
Oh my gosh.
serving the Chicagoland area. All of Metropolitan Steel's work is performed to exact project specifications, engineered procedures, and code requirements. For more info, call Metropolitan Steel at 708-474-2072.
Beam Longest and Neff. Beam Longest and Neff, or BLN for short, is an award-winning consulting firm with experience in all facets of infrastructure projects. Founded in 1945, BLN has provided decades of expertise as a consulting firm. Guided by third-generation leadership, the core group of BLN partners and associates strive to remain leaders within the consulting community. Our history and experience has helped us define a clear vision to work towards total client satisfaction. For more information, call us at 1-800-382-5206. You know, Beam is currently one of the big consulting firms working on the South Shore expansion.
There you go.
They're doing a lot of the purchases and relocation of the eminent domain work, basically. But Beam has done a lot of work for the city of Hammond, and now they're doing a lot of work with the NICD.
BLN, one of our sponsors.
Yep.
Thank you, by the way. Tortillas Nuevo Leon. Family owned since 1975, Tortillas Nuevo Leon has been a staple in the Mexican food industry for decades. Tortillas Nuevo Leon produces quality tortillas and crispy nacho chips locally and around the country. Stop by your grocery store and look for their popular red and white logo. For more information, check out their website at tortillasnuevoleon.com.
I love Tortillas Nuevo Leon.
Me too.
Yeah. Latitude Commercial is a full curse. Start over.
Take
again.
two.
Aaron's not listening.
Amateurs.
Aaron's not listening.
No.
He's out of town.
Sleeping. Oh, he's out of town. All right.
Yeah.
Can't sleep with
With
little
my
kids.
chief of staff, by the way.
Oh.
My brother and
It's
my
a nice
chief of staff.
romantic
Him and Phil holding hands.
getaway.
It's not them two together. I mean,
Well, you just
don't get the
said
wrong
they
idea.
went-
Don't
I mean,
get the
that's
wrong
a-
idea.
I don't know, man. They're pretty close.
Yeah, they went to Orlando together. That'd be like red
Oh,
flags.
Yeah.
Wow, it's out there now.
Like
Yeah,
they're-
it's weird that they left the wives and children behind now. That is strange.
And there's
They're
pictures
going
of them
to
in the
the-
fairy castle
They're going
at,
to
at
the-
Disney World.
yeah, that's
They're
funny.
gonna go to the
Here we
Harry
are.
Potter land.
I never put it together until now. I think Aaron and Phil got something going
Maybe
on.
we'll find out when they come
Aw.
back.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Nothing
No,
at all.
nothing at all.
Adorable.
That sucks.
That sucks for the wives, though.
Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah,
maybe
that's
they
the
might be
wrong
happy.
part.
Maybe
Yeah,
they probably
you know
are.
what? Maybe
happy.
they're pretty relieved that they don't have
Don't-
to deal with them anymore.
Do I need to remind you, Aaron's paying for this crap right
All
now?
right.
I love you, Aaron.
Yeah, sorry, Aaron. Latitude Commercial is a full-service commercial real estate brokerage and property management firm specializing in Northwest Indiana and the Chicago suburbs. Local tenants to national developers have benefited from Latitude's experience in the commercial real estate market. When you select Latitude Commercial, you get Chicagoland expertise with worldwide marketing and networking capability. Oh, it's ability. Never mind. Whether you are a developer looking to sell, a tenant looking to expand, or an investor looking to purchase, or an owner in need of property management services, Latitude can help. Contact Latitude at 219-864-0200 or at latitudeco.com so they can get to work for you.
Thank you, Latitude. Misprint Printing. With both Munster and Hammond locations, Rick Balzenberger and his team are there for absolutely all of your printing needs. He's responsive, fast, and good. Banners and signs of all sizes, from wrapping cards to business cards. No job is too big or too small for Misprint Printing. Call Rick or Teresa at 219-836-2517.
Rick Baltonsberger's texting me right now.
Uh-oh.
He says he doesn't like it when you do the commercials.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah,
He
I
said,
know,
I
right?
have your big heart waiting for you, Mayor.
He said, Mayor Tom, can you please read the commercial? Kevin sucks at it. Let me text him
I
back.
really don't think
I know,
that
Rick.
happened.
I'm really sorry.
We have a dip in sales
I'll
because
go
Kevin's
ahead.
reading the ad.
He doesn't.
Yes.
Rick is saying you didn't emphasize. He's responsive.
I
he's
very-
fast and he's good.
You like
That's
to
it.
read that one. I know.
I know.
That's one
Okay,
of your
I'll do it.
favorites.
I'll do it. He's responsive.
We have all
He's
this
fast,
time.
and he's good. Rick Baltonsberger.
There you go, Rick. That's what you paid for.
That's what you
The
paid
locomotive did that
for. Rick.
much
That's right.
better.
Sorry
man.
about that, Rick. We'll fix that in the future.
Kevin, when you
I'm
were
not
like,
going to make it
he's
through
good.
episode 50.
Like, do you want to be good?
Kevin's like,
he's just good.
He's responsive, fast, and good. Banners and signs of all sizes. It's like, dude,
I think I did
I'm
better
going to end
than
up
that.
doing all the damn commercials before it's over.
Thank you.
So, like we get special requests
Maybe-
for the locomotive.
You know, I had a very nice comment on the chat that said, Kevin is such a professional. How can you read the word erector without smirking? Thank you,
You did
Kelly.
smirk.
Thank you, Kelly.
From Jana.
No, thank you, Kelly.
Thank
no,
you,
she
Jan-
wouldn't.
Thank you,
Kelly
Jana.
I wouldn't
Reed.
expect that compliment from her.
Yeah.
so.
Jana doesn't listen to our show.
Jana's
God,
not
no.
listening. Nobody's listening.
There's no way
Marissa
she's
gave up on
listening.
this show, episode 2. Like she's done.
Just
She's
us
like,
talking in a room.
I
What's
have
the
no
purpose?
choice but to be here. So
Yeah, Lindsay.
We don't let you go. Lindsay.
Yeah.
One more.
True Barbecue. You don't have to go to Chicago to find good food and a fine dining experience. True Barbecue in Munster has all of that and more. Stop by and take a look at our menu full of barbecue favorites with some new twists on old classics. Choose a drink from our extensive list of whiskey like Kevin's go-to, a Woodford Double on the Rocks. Or stick with one of your favorites like Mayor Tom's Vodka with the Muddled Lime. Located at 8940 Calumet Avenue in Munster, come visit and enjoy. True Barbecue.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
You want me to like clap?
You
Because
should.
you did such a
You
nice
should.
job reading that on
Thank
episode
you.
L. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you to our
Choo
sponsors.
choo. That's my
Oh boy.
that's how I respond. The
Thank
locomotive.
you to our sponsors. Hey,
That
you know
was
what?
pathetic.
Before Senator Joe gets
Yeah,
on,
great. Senator
I
Donnelly's
wanna-
listening.
I wanna
And he's
make
been
sure-
listening
I'm
to
making
you.
train
I want to
noises.
mention something. After we talked about Bumble that last episode, did you see what happened?
Yes, stock went up like 90%.
80%. Do you think it had anything to do with?
There's no doubt about it.
It's all us.
Plus, it's our friend Lisa who recently joined. I'm sure that has something to do with
I have
it.
not got an update from her on whether our
I'm gonna-
swiping helped.
I'm going to bust her out.
Don't do that.
Lisa is actually.
Oh,
Who do you think Lisa is, Lindsay? Lisa.
I
I
know-
know a Lisa, by the way, and I don't think the real Lisa was very happy that we
Why?
were saying. Because I
You
think
don't know. You only
people
know one
assume-
Lisa.
I only know one Lisa, and I assumed it was
I'm
that
trying to
Lisa.
think. Do we know more than one
You
Lisa?
think we? So we use
Oh no,
the
I
real
know.
name
I know
to throw
Lisa,
everybody off.
Lisa Burdine, Lisa Kuziak. Okay.
They're on Bumble.
No,
No.
neither of them are on Bumble.
Lisa
Neither
was
of
a
whom
high
are
See
on
how
school
good I
Bumble.
did that?
Neither of
See
whom
how
are on
good I
Bumble.
did
See,
that?
that was really good.
How was that?
That was solid, dude.
Thank you.
I mean,
I'm working on my delivery.
unlike a caboose. I mean, that was money.
I tricked you.
I love it. I love it, Kevin. It's
I got
very
a
good.
pit in my stomach when
Well,
you asked me who.
You're like, it's
Lisa
not
is.
me.
No,
All right.
I think I know who it is, but I don't want to call her out.
Like, how about this?
Oh, don't give it away.
Like, if you got a really itchy rash, it's poison.
Ivy.
Yeah.
Sumac.
Sumac, yeah, exactly.
What?
I know somebody, Sudak.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
here
I
you
don't
go.
think we should mess around.
I'd
there.
say leave it.
Yeah.
Hey, you know,
Stacy, you were not on Bumble either. All right, it's Eva.
I knew it.
It's Eva. Okay, it's Eva.
oh my God.
Oh, no.
You
should-
wow.
I know.
All right, it's out there. If anyone's listening to the
Eva.
show today.
If anybody's good enough
If you're
for her,
interested
because they aren't.
in a wonderful woman,
All right,
Eva.
I don't think she needs like your
I'm pitching
promo.
her. Dude,
I mean,
I'm
she's,
pitching her.
I think she's fine. I think
Eva,
it was
I'm sorry if you're
successful
mad.
on Bumble.
If it was mad, it was because Kevin wanted to do
She
this.
kind of gave it away last show, though. She was commenting, calling you out for calling her out, even though we didn't use her name. And I was like,
We weren't using her name, and then I get
Gave it
in, and she's
away.
like, "Why didn't you say my real name?" I was like, "I didn't
Well,
know that
guess
you wanted
what?
to be part of my
we're
world."
going to advertise Eva next show. I'm going to have a commercial
Yeah.
advertising
Oh,
Eva.
that's a good idea. Like a
yes.
Bumble,
Like a Bumble ad.
plea.
Can we get
A
see
plea
if
on
Bumble,
Bumble.
will
Yeah.
sponsor our show?
Well, the CEO's a billionaire now. Why can't
Yes.
they throw
She,
a
I
little
would
bit
think
of
she'd throw a bone our way.
Yeah.
Bumble?
All right, Bumble.
By the way,
Bumble.
I'm now looking at Joe's beautiful, handsome face, so he is ready to come
my
on
God.
whenever you guys are.
All right,
This
all
is
right.
exciting.
I gotta get my tie on.
Oh,
All right, let's
You
bring him in.
tie.
Let's bring
Ready?
him in.
All right.
Okay, let's try this. All right, here we go. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Senator.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys today?
Hey, Senator Joe. Nice to talk to you.
That is exciting.
It's
Skype
great
works.
to talk to you too. So about 3 weeks ago, I was talking to Mayor Hogsett, and he said, "Hey, have you been on Tom and Kevin's podcast yet?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "I have."
They say, don't do it.
we were making fun of Mayor Joe.
I laughed and said, "And you're still standing."
That's
so,
right. That's right. Thanks for coming on, Senator. It's great to hear from you.
okay.
Where are you? Are you in South Bend right now?
I'm actually in Michigan City.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, Kevin said you got to have good internet, so I tried to make sure that I did.
I
Awesome.
appreciate that.
But I'm just up the road. If I had known, I should have thought twice. I should have just come over to Hammond this morning and been there with you.
that'd have been awesome.
You'd have been more than welcome.
That
I
We'll
would
do
have
that
loved
again sometime.
Love it. Love it.
Well, this is episode 50, so we had to have one of our favorite friends and great guests and great Hoosiers on for that. So we couldn't be more excited to have you, Senator.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this. This is pretty cool, what I'm going to tell you here. So I was clicking in on my iPad to go over the podcast and everything. And the one right next to it was the Axe Files.
Nice.
Wow.
See?
So it
we're
was
getting
you
there.
guys in the Axe Files.
Look at
I'm
that.
glad you chose the right
We've
one.
reached the 90s big leagues.
Hey, Judge Marissa sends her regards, fellow Long Islander to another fellow Long Islander. Massapequa was Long Island, right, Joe?
It is. Yeah, I grew up there and had never been west of New Jersey until I went to Notre Dame. It was a typical immigrant family. We landed there. My world was about a 5-mile circle and got accepted to Notre Dame, at which point my father's, in a truly encouraging and touchy-feely way parents used to be, the World War II generation, said, "No, you didn't really get in, did you?"
You know what's funny, Senator Joe, is when Marissa's parents took her to Notre Dame, I hear the same types of stories with Mr. Kelly, who's unfortunately passed about a decade ago. But Pat Kelly was such a New Yorker, and he would talk to me about like things that they had in New York, and he didn't realize that we had them in Indiana also. He'd be like, I watch Fox News a lot. Do you guys have that in Indiana? I'm like, yeah, we have Fox News in Indiana.
I'm not watching it. But
He's such a New Yorker, though. It reminded me when you said that if you live in New York, that's like the center of the world, and you really don't have to leave for anything.
Oh, yeah. And then I was, fortunate enough to go to Notre Dame. So the first time I ever was at Notre Dame was when I came out there to start. And so my father looked at me, said, "Good luck."
Turned around and went back to New York.
And in effect, what he said was basically, don't come back if you're coming back because your grades are bad.
Yeah.
And now you are, and you never left. Here you are. You're still in,
I know,
still
right?
in St. Joe County, pretty
Well,
much, right?
I fell in love with Indiana and met my wife, a Notre Dame student who's also from Indiana. So it's, I've been incredibly blessed.
What's funny is Marissa, same thing. She moved to Indiana and met a great Hoosier.
Met the locomotive.
Met the locomotive,
and
fell
next
in
thing you know,
love.
and here you
Now
are.
she's full-blown Hoosier.
That's right.
Yeah.
She tried to she tried to take the Amtrak and wound up with the locomotive.
That's right. That's right. I love that.
That's
That one down, John. I like that quote.
We're going to use that one.
There's a show title in there.
That's it. That's it.
I like that show title. But
Well,
you know what? I actually met Joe Donnelly's wife, Jill, before I met Joe, because Jill worked at the law school when Marissa and I were
No
students.
kidding.
You realize that? You knew that, right, Joe?
I did. Yeah. She worked there for many years.
Yeah.
She loved working there. And, what was amazing about that, too, was being from the South Bend community. Our kids went to St. Anthony's grade school, and a lot of the moms at the grade school worked at Notre Dame. And I always used to laugh with a trivia question I had. I used to coach basketball there, and I had a team, about 13, 14. And of those 13 or 14, 7 of them wound up going to Notre Dame.
Wow.
And so
Crazy.
whenever parents would go, what can I do to try to get my my son or daughter into Notre Dame when the time comes? I said, go to St. Anthony's and play basketball.
They recruit right out of there.
So Joe, we want to get into it a little bit and just talk about, let's first off start out. What have you been doing since 2018? Because we know that's when you left the Senate. And...
Well, the first thing I did was I went and broke my leg.
What? I didn't even know that.
In early February, I fell on the ice in Gas City.
Oh,
A wonderful, wonderful man, Leland Boren, who had been incredibly helpful to me through my campaigns and a chance to call him up for advice and those kind of things, passed away. So I went down to see his family to give my condolences, and walked out of a gas station, and all the ice had been shoveled up against the curb. So I thought I was stepping down onto the parking lot, and it turned out I was stepping down onto a ski slope.
Oh my goodness.
And snapped my tibia. And
That's
so
no fun.
that was, and then I drove home, and somebody said, well, what ambulance service did you use to get back to St. Joe County? And I said, that would be the Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah.
that would be.
I think you're better off in St. Joseph as opposed to Gas City with a
That's
broken
not an
leg.
easy drive either.
But
Wow. Is the tibia? That's the lower part of the leg, right, Joe?
that's
Lindsay?
like
Lower inner part of the leg.
There you go.
below the knee on the outer bone below the knee.
Ouch.
But what I've been doing is I teach national security at Notre Dame, and I practice some law, and I also am the board chairman of an anti-terrorism center in New York City.
Awesome.
I mean, what do you miss most about being in the Senate, and what do you miss least about being in the Senate?
What I miss most about being in the Senate is like being there today to try to do what's right for Indiana.
Yeah.
That after you see the evidence, and we can get into this, in a few minutes, after you see the evidence, after you see what took place, one of the police officers, Howard Liebengood, who has died since then, Howard was always just outside the door of the Senate chambers. He's a big Indy 500 racing fan, so we used to talk about those things. So watching that's my family. That's my family. And so to not be there to try to vote in a way that I think reflects the best nature of Hoosiers, I wish I could be there for that. I loved the work. I loved the chance, for instance, to work in the Gary Airport, to make it so that a family in Hammond that Mayor Tom had helped, that I could then do something for them on the federal level. So that part I loved. The part I don't miss is pretty much when you see people doing stuff and you go, I know why they're doing this. It has nothing to do with good governance.
Yep.
That's the part that you look at.
That's one thing you brought up the Gary Airport. I remember when, Senator Joe first took over, it was one of the major first accomplishments he had was relocating. I forgot which rail line it was that had to relocate
Rail lines, yeah.
so that they could expand that runway. And that was one of the first things Joe did when he took office. And it was a significant accomplishment because that was taking years to get to that point.
Decades, yeah.
Yeah.
That was big,
Well,
Joe.
the interesting about that was, it took a few conversations with the rail line. We're grateful that they did it, but I had to point out a couple of other things to them as well. And once we did, it worked out great. That they began to understand, look, this costs you next to nothing. All you do is you just reroute it a little bit and you're in business, and you gain a lot of credibility with the people of Northwest Indiana.
Hey Joe, I was watching some of the critique of yesterday's performance in the Senate, and I noticed that Rand Paul had his back to the evidence the entire time, and then there was reports that Mike Braun was actually sleeping during the presentation. I mean, this infuriates me as a veteran. It infuriates me as an American that, because the founding fathers put this mechanism in place, whether or not the senators agree they should be going through it or not, but they're not giving seriousness at all to the proceedings. And the fact is, the Capitol was attacked. It's just distasteful to me to see the senators just shirking their responsibility like that. I mean, do you feel the same way when you see it, or?
Well, and that's preceded by the fact that Officer Brian Sicknick lost his life protecting that Capitol.
Yep.
And we had senators who couldn't be bothered to sit in their chair and listen to the evidence. Officer Howard Liebengood lost his life because, in large measure, of what happened that day. If you saw the video of Officer Eugene Goodman, who, in effect, when he made that, when I was watching that, the thing about the Capitol is it's pretty tricky to figure out where everything is because it's such a big place. But eventually you do, and it's like a second home. And the people you meet with, like in the morning, having coffee with the maintenance folks, and joking about the Bears and the Washington football team and Notre Dame and all of those things, and they become, it's like going to the coffee shop in Hammond before you head into work. And their lives were at risk. And you saw Officer Goodman when he made the turn and headed down the hallway one way. The reason he did it was exactly the other way, probably 5 steps, and then you make a left. That was the entrance to the Senate. And just outside, and then as you enter into the Senate, so you're starting to go down the steps a little bit, 4 or 5 steps. If you turn just to the right, those doors that open up right behind that is where the vice president's office was. Wow. So he's just right off the hall. So as you see him come out of that chair and then head through those doors, just 5 steps away, there's a special office for the vice president. That's where he was. And Officer Goodman was thinking that. And so he's doing all these things. All these people who sacrificed so much to protect that building, the least a senator can do is to do their job and listen to the case. And then if after the end of it they find, I can't vote to convict, then they vote not to convict. But Tom, it's like you trying a case and 5 of the jurors just leave.
Yeah.
It's no different.
A judge would never allow the 5 jurors to leave, but in the Senate, they're sort of in charge of their own destiny. So
I think it's interesting, Joe, that I would imagine that you watching those videos has got to be such a different perspective than most Americans because you know that building so well. So I'm sure when you see the videos, you know exactly where everybody is, you know exactly what hallway they're in, and it's got to be a very interesting perspective from you watching it versus somebody like me who doesn't know the building.
Well, Kevin, you get to know every inch of the place, and it's such a sacred place. I know both of you and you would come out, would look at it with awe, just like every morning when I'd go in there, I'd look at it with awe. I remember time after time having school groups, whether from Hammond elementary schools or from Indianapolis schools, and the kids would be on the steps looking at it, and you'd literally see the jaws open because this is the citadel of democracy. And watching it, Kevin, I knew every turn they were making, and I knew every place they were going.
And just to see it getting vandalized and beat up and destroyed is just it's sad.
So there's the room on the ground floor, and so all those windows were replaced some years ago. And it was not because of the thought of something like this. It was because of the thought of, say, a bomb on the outside or an Al-Qaeda, event. But all those windows were replaced so that when they were broken, instead of shattering like in our house, it would just go all over. There's almost like a film on both sides, so it just kind of it cracks out, but it doesn't spray around. And to see them banging on those windows and banging and banging and banging, and I knew exactly what was going on because I remember those being replaced. And the room they were going into on the ground floor is the room where we have our every Wednesday prayer breakfast for senators, where we all get together. It was that room that they went into. It was the room where Chairman of Joint Chiefs Joe Dunford would sit and talk to us about Afghanistan and Iraq. And so in all of these rooms, so many things have happened. And then to see them trash like this, it was heartbreaking.
You know, when Joe was a senator, one of the things I was most proud of, because Kevin and I were, huge supporters, and everybody in this room was huge supporters, but one of the things I was real proud of is watching you become a senator, and then rankings would come out every year showing who's the most liberal and who's the most conservative senators, and Senator Joe was literally number 50 out of 100 senators, the most bipartisan senator in the US Senate. And I was super proud of that. And then I was very jealous of Senator Joe also because he got to meet and befriend a legend, somebody I love very much and read many books about, is US Senator John McCain, who is my favorite Republican senator without a doubt. And I know Joe Donnelly and John McCain were very good friends, which doesn't surprise me because Joe's such a reasonable guy and such a great guy.
And really just like you want your Hoosiers to be like, right?
Right. But what was he like, Joe? John McCain.
I want to send you a picture. I'll get you a picture in the next few days.
Thank you.
Of him and I, arm in arm.
My two favorite senators.
And well, thank you. Talk about being in good company.
Mm-hmm.
I traveled the world with him. And what was funny was, he was in a very, very tough re-election, his last one. And it wasn't so much the general as the primary. And I was traveling with him while he was in that primary. And what made it hard was a lot of the Trump Republicans. And, we're in other parts of the world and they say, well, what do you think about this with Mr. Trump and that with Mr. Trump? And he goes, well, I have my own opinions and we try to work together when we can. And what would be funny is then we get in the plane and he'd have a beer and he'd go, well, let me tell you.
Well, right. That's interesting. You talked about primaries with Republicans because, let's just go back to 2012, right? When you got elected to the Senate and you had Dick Lugar, our senator in Indiana for years. There was a point, I think, in his, I guess it would have been the 2006.
Yeah.
I don't think the Democrats put anybody up against him.
We didn't even put a person
Nobody
up.
ran against
right?
him.
And then you've got a guy who's a statesman, right? He's one of the foremost experts in nuclear arms who had served in the Senate for, 30 years at least at that point, or right around that. Maybe it was 4 terms, 24 years. And he gets primaried by a guy who's a Tea Party guy, right? Right, Joe?
And who attacked him because he said that Richard Lugar would reach out to the other side to work together.
God forbid.
And Richard Lugar's like, yeah, I plead guilty to that.
Yeah, right.
And I will tell you that, if Indiana's ever had a finer senator than Richard Lugar, I don't know who it would be because he was the best. And I'll tell you a quick story about him. Is when I first came into the House, I was not fully knowledgeable about the fact. It was only like the third or fourth time I'd been to D.C. Not fully knowledgeable about the fact that everything's done with appointments and all of this stuff, So after a vote, I went over to Senator Lugar's office to say hello, and his staff is like, "What are you doing?"
Just dropping by.
Are you really?
I'm from Indiana, just like he is.
Just like walked in, and I said, "Well, tell him I said hello. Tell him I'm honored to serve with him." And about a day later, I get a call, and it was Richard Lugar, and he said, "Let's go have breakfast." And so we had breakfast together over at the Senate dining room, and he said to me, "Look, we have really, really important issues in front of us right now with Iraq and Afghanistan." He goes, "These are," and as you know, Tom, being a vet, he said, these are life and death questions that we want every kid to get. We want every man and woman to get back home safe to Hammond, to get back home safe to Hobart. And so you're going to have to make some critical votes." And he said, "I've had a little experience in this area." He was so modest. Here's a man with, as you said, Kevin, he served 36 years. He said, "I've had a little experience in this." He was the chief of staff to Arleigh Burke, Tom, who was a legendary Navy figure. And he said, "So here's what I want you to know, that you can ask me anything, any questions, and call me at any time. Here's my cell number." He said, because we have to get these young men and women home safe. And he said, and anything you ask me, he said, there's no dumb questions, and it'll be kept between us. You'll never hear it talked about with anybody else.
That's a great story. And then, the only thing I can say that came out of Richard Lugar losing was we got Joe Donnelly as our senator.
Yeah.
So that was the upside.
Could I remember
and the last part of that story, real quick, was at the end of the breakfast. He looked at me, he goes, and if I have any questions that you can help me with, I hope you won't mind if I call. And I said, I don't think you'll have any.
That's funny. I remember when 2012 came around and you got gerrymandered. Your district, you were in the 2nd district in the House, and you got gerrymandered by the Indiana supermajority, leaving you with really the only option. You could have run for re-election and taken a chance on the new district, and you said, forget it, I'm just going to run for U.S. Senate in Indiana, and just, I'm going to go for it all.
Right where he's sitting right now used to be in his district, and they pulled it out.
Right. Well, I remember when, because Joe, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you had no intention on ever running against Richard Lugar. Obviously, if he would have won the primary, but the hope all along was this guy, this geologist, is going to run against a legend. And I think the geologist, if he does win, we could easily beat the geologist. And really, as a party, we were sitting there watching it, the plan perfectly happened just like we anticipated. And it's unfortunate that Richard Lugar lost in a primary, but Richard Murdoch was a walking disaster, and Joe Donnelly was definitely the best candidate. And
we're lucky to have him for 6 years, absolutely.
Well, thank you. And like you said, I respected Senator Lugar so much. If it was very clear that Senator Lugar would have been the nominee again for the Republican Party, I would have run for the House, not because I didn't want to serve in the Senate, but because I thought that Senator Lugar had earned that opportunity. But it was fairly clear also, Tom and Kevin, that he wasn't going to win the primary.
Yeah.
Because it was so crazy.
Yeah.
And see that now with Trump.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing, just a different.
It was like the edge of what we now know as current politics. But I remember they did Murdoch did a press conference from Richard Lugar's quote unquote address.
Right.
And, he'd been in the Senate for 36 years and he didn't have a permanent Indiana address. And you could start to tell that the tide was turning on Lugar at that point. And it was a big deal at the time in the Republican primary. I remember that day well.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was kind of like the pre-Trump but post-Tea Party.
Right.
It was like right in that era. So.
And now it's come to like a complete fulfillment almost.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that is, I heard on the radio this morning, they said, if it was a Republican consultant said, if it was a secret ballot, the vote would be 90 votes to convict today.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's interesting. Hey, we got a question from the internet. Question from John wants to know what your opinion is on term limits, Senator.
Well, very often with elections, the very first term limit is every time you run.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that what you also find, as I know you do, Mayor Tom, that you know more about the job of being mayor of Hammond. You know how to do it better than you did on your first day.
No doubt.
You know how to fix things better, and it's resulted in programs like all of our high school kids in Hammond being able to have a shot at college, right?
Right.
And so I certainly felt that I knew how to be a senator better on my last day than my first day.
There you go.
Agree.
And that in elections, there's a term limit every time.
Yep.
And in 2018, I got term limited.
I totally agree, Senator. I feel the same way. I mean, I'm in my 5th term as mayor, and I think that the Hammond residents wanted me to continue because they know I'm doing a good job.
And if they don't, they can vote you out.
I agree.
Look, we wouldn't have a guy like Richard Lugar serving our state for 36 years if there was a term limit. And
that's right.
Think about what kind of senator he was on his last day versus like if he would have left after 12 years in the Senate.
He was worldwide recognized statesman.
And
absolutely.
We would have
John
missed
McCain.
out. Yeah. We would have missed out on Lugar managing to grab and nullify all of the nuclear weapons that the Soviet Union had as they were imploding. He helped lead that effort to denuclearize those weapons. John McCain, who everywhere I traveled with him, he was treated like a head of state. Mm-hmm. We went to Pakistan together, and we went to they held a dinner for him that was a presidential type dinner And we walked in, and there was a 40-piece band playing as he came in. And he looked at me and he kidded me. He elbowed me. He goes, "They're all here for you, Joe."
That's great.
I said, I know better than that, Senator.
Hey,
but his greatest laughs was on that trip to Pakistan. We were in what's called the tribal areas, which has very little control. It's right on the Afghanistan border. Very, very dangerous area. And we were in a meeting with some of the Pakistan military, and they served bottled water, and then they said, "This is the best fruit juice we have." It was this green fruit juice, and so I had that after the meeting. Senator McCain, John, comes up to me. He goes, "You had some of that fruit juice, didn't you?" I said, "I did." He goes, "Give it a couple days." I literally flew home from that trip, like laid out, deathly ill in the back of a United plane.
That's a warning when you go to Pakistan. Don't drink the green juice.
Don't drink the green juice.
Hey, Senator, it seems like South Bend, obviously with the rise of Mayor Buttigieg to become Secretary Pete, and now with Mike Shmuel, Pete Buttigieg's former campaign manager, announcing he's running for Democratic chairman of the Indiana State Democratic Party, seems like South Bend is becoming a focus.
The cradle of moving on up.
They had, the former Lieutenant Governor Joe Kernan. Obviously they have U.S. Senator Joe Donnelly and Governor Kernan, right? And, Pete Buttigieg obviously running, across the country, now becoming secretary. And now Mike Shmuel running for state Democratic chair. It seems like South Bend is becoming a political powerhouse in Indiana.
Well, what we've tried to do is just what you tried to do when you were chair of the Lake County Democrats, 1st District Democrats, is to give opportunities to people. Pete was an intern for me. He's now the Secretary of Transportation. Mike Shmuel, his first political job when he came out was working, in my office. And then we said, we think you can run this campaign. He left the office to run the campaign. And the rest is history. He won the Iowa primaries with Mayor Pete. You have Joe Kernan, who gave me a chance to do things. And so what we've always tried to do is, instead of just keeping something to yourselves, it's the bigger we grow the pie, the better it will be, the more opportunities. And we wanted everybody to always know, look, there's unbelievable opportunities. Everyone gets their chances. And we love having everybody as part of the team. And I think that'll be reflected in we tried to reflect that in the Indiana Democratic Party as well. And I think we've got good days ahead.
So, Joe, that's that leads into my next question. If Mike becomes the chairman of the party, the state party, as you know, we have a lot of challenges statewide. We haven't had a state office holder in a while. There's a supermajority in the state Senate, 39-11. Mayor knows what the numbers are in the House. It's like 71-29, something like that. So what do you think from an Indiana Democrat perspective that Mike could do as chairman, or that you believe needs to get done to get things kind of back where it's a little more even statewide? Because I feel like as a state, we're pretty much even, but it doesn't reflect that way either in the state Senate or the state House.
Well, a couple things is, the problem with the state House and Senate is they gerrymandered everything.
Without
Absolutely.
A doubt.
The number one problem in the state.
You basically have maybe 55-45, 56-44 in the state, somewhere around that. And you run a good campaign, you work hard, you have a shot. But statewide, I mean, legislative-wise, they've used, the computer data analytics so that a state that's actually 55-45, they've just gerrymandered everything. And Tom, as you said, Mayor, my congressional district was Exhibit 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
As you mentioned, the area I'm sitting in right now, Michigan City, used to be in my district. We always did really, really well here. And then you look up and they've carved it out and have put in an area that, was traditionally very much the other way. And so that's why, I've always been for nonpartisan redistricting, because, I don't want an advantage either. I'm more than happy to go out on the field and do the best I can. But as a state, Kevin, I think what Mike is going to do, our chair, is in every county, we have success in Lake County, and then it is, how do we move the numbers even more? One of the things during my last campaign and 2012 campaign, and I was shameless in going up to you, the two of you, and saying, "Here's the number I have to have."
Yep.
You'd look and you'd go, "How much? What kind of margin?"
But we got it though. That's the crazy thing.
Say, let's figure out how to get there,
Yep.
and we always got it. And you guys did incredible work. And we can do that in every county, and you don't have to win every county. But say a county we lose by 30. If you lose by 25, then you've made a very, very significant dent
Yep.
In the majority of the other side, and then you pick the winning votes up in those areas that are more favorable to us.
Question from the internet from Luke asks, Senator, what's your opinion on whether or not the filibuster should be removed from the Senate?
That's a hot topic.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about it is I don't have a problem with the filibuster if it's used properly. And what I mean by that is if it's used in a stand-up way. But what we saw with Senator McConnell is he simply used it to stop everything. He publicly said, my goal with President Obama is to make sure he's a one-term president.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're talking back when they were in the minority, right, Joe? That when McConnell was in the minority, right?
Right. And, when I was asked how do you feel about President Bush, I said, my job is to make him as successful as he can possibly be, because then lives are better for every American. That's what the answer should be in that. And so when it's misused, it's a very dangerous thing. When it's used, in the way it was intended, which is with legislation that's not really very good, which is controversial, which is a problem. Let's slow this down. Let's talk about it. We don't want to be just the House of Representatives in the Senate. The House is a wonderful place. I was incredibly blessed to be there, but it has to be different. And so how does the filibuster change? And I said this term, if it's used simply to block everything Joe Biden wants to do, if it's used to block COVID relief, if it's used to block infrastructure, if it's used to block racial justice, if it's used to block climate change legislation to make things better, then all you're doing is saying, well, we have a Senate that can't work, and then you have to look at changes. But if it can be used in the right way, and I think that's the test that's going on right now, is in effect, Senator Schumer and the other Democrats have looked at Senator McConnell and basically said, we're in a trial period almost, where we're going to see how this is used. We're not going to make changes until we see abuse. Yeah. And if we see abuse, then we'll make changes.
I saw abuse in 2016 when we had a vacancy from the U.S. Supreme Court, and Justice Merrick Garland was up for a nomination and
couldn't get a hearing
and was filibustered out. That was a disgrace. And then, a couple of years later, the same situation happens exactly. And,
And Joe, those were to me, it seemed like those were some of your toughest votes. I remember listening to you talk about both those nominees when now Justice Gorsuch was Judge Gorsuch, and then also Judge Kavanaugh, and now Justice Kavanaugh. It seemed like those were two of your most tough votes that you had to do as a senator, at least as far as the judicial nominations
right
go.
The judicial was always a challenge, as Tom said, because it was so abused by the other side in that process. For everyone who didn't know all the minute details, but the choice for Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals judge, that's our circuit in Chicago, that just Supreme Court Justice Amy Barrett serves on. Judge Amy, she was Judge Amy Barrett when she was appointed to the Seventh Circuit, but before she was appointed, her nomination came up right after Trump won. For 3 years before that, I had nominated a former member of the Indiana Supreme Court, Justice Myra Selby. She would have been the first African-American woman in the history of the state of Indiana to serve on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. A 3-year time period. And they not only wouldn't give Judge Selby a hearing, not one Republican senator would meet with her. Think that.
That's crazy.
For 3 years.
That's crazy.
Those are the kind of things you don't even hear about, Joe. And
for 3 years. So as soon as Trump became president, Amy Barrett was nominated for judge.
Right.
Yep.
And that's how her career got its emphasis. Now, I supported Judge Barrett, but all I had ever asked was for my colleagues to show that same courtesy to Justice Selby,
Yep.
who would have been extraordinary in every way. And you look and you go, you want to talk about abuse?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's when it's broken, when stuff like that's happening. And did you know Justice Barrett from Notre Dame?
I do, yes.
So you knew her before she was a judge?
Yes.
Yeah, I crossed paths with her and her husband both when I was a student at Notre Dame also.
Yeah, and I supported her nomination, and she's now on the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Yep. Well, those are tough votes, Joe, and I know it's interesting, right? You voted up on Justice Gorsuch, you voted down on Justice Kavanaugh. And Kavanaugh's vote was right before your election. I'm sure you that had to have some sort
brutal.
of. That was just a tough
It was in
time.
the summer of your election, right?
Yep.
Well, I will tell you this: the day before the Kavanaugh hearings started, I was 10 points ahead.
Wow.
I was 10 points ahead. The day after the Kavanaugh hearings ended.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, I was not the central focus of the Kavanaugh hearings or anything like that. But the day after the hearings ended, I was down 7 in our polls.
Joe, do you believe polls anymore?
I believed my pollster.
Your pollster and my pollster are the same, I believe. Do we use Fred?
I will tell you this. One time I was, I'd been working for months and months and months and months. And he called me up and said, here's the latest poll, you're down 4. This is in the 2012 race. Mm-hmm. I said, when are you going to ever have me ahead in a poll? and he said, well, as soon as you're ahead, you'll be ahead in the poll. And I said, I got to go. But I know what you're saying, Tom, is you look at some polls and you see what happens and you go, how does this bear any relation to reality? I mean, you've been through that.
Yes, sir. I just got through it.
Yeah, you give everything you got and you look up and you go,
mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be this.
Right.
What on election day in my Senate race in 2018, the exit polls by all the networks had me ahead.
Joe, you and I have another thing in common that I didn't realize is you ran for Congress unsuccessfully the first time, and then you were successful after that, which gives me hope, because I've been singing the blues in here, and everybody in Lockpot is yelling at me because I'm singing the blues, and I didn't realize the first time you ran for Congress you were unsuccessful.
There's so many good opportunities that are out there, and we have a big state too.
Yes,
and there's so many different ways that we can serve our nation. And so, after I lost, you sit there, you look at the wall for a month or two, and you come out of it stronger and better, actually. And you look and you go, well, it may not be this path, but it's this path or this path or this path. There's so many great opportunities to serve our country.
So what's the future of Joe Donnelly in Indiana or in Washington, D.C. or somewhere? What are you thinking about doing? Are you going to hook up with the Biden administration? Are you looking at running for something, Joe? What can we expect?
I don't know at this point. We'll see what the future holds. As you know, Vice President, he's not Vice President. He was when he came to Hammond.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we got to talk about that.
That was his comeback, by the way. You brought Joe Biden here when he was just starting to campaign again.
Well, what was interesting was, and your audience needs to know this, that then former Vice President Biden, his trip to Hammond was in like the end of September, October of 18, when he came to the auditorium there. That was the largest crowd that Joe Biden had since he left the vice presidency. That entire 4-year period, or 2-year period at that point, that was the largest crowd he had. And he left, and he looked at me. He said, "This was awesome." I said, "Well, I told you, Mayor Tom would have it covered."
We're gonna remind him of that in the future, I promise.
That's
but
right.
I remember, Joe. I remember when the staff was out there and they were like prepping it. They were like, "Why don't we just wipe this whole part out? We won't even fill it with people at all." And we looked at them. We're like, "When we had Hillary Clinton here, we filled this place." And
you'll be fine on people.
Yeah.
And that was an awesome event. I remember after the event was over, then former Vice President Biden was like, I want to run upstairs. He ran up the Civic Center stairs to the balcony so he could take pictures with people, meet people, talk to people. He was so pumped. He was loving every minute of that, Joe.
He was loving every minute of it. And I'll tell you another story of our local area is I happened to be in Michigan City on a Sunday. I was working on some Senate issue when I was in the Senate. And the vice president and Jill have some family in the area. And so I went to a local ice cream shop that I would go to that I still do, I confess. They and I came in and she goes, Joe. I said, hey, how are you? She goes, usually you're my favorite office holder. She goes, not today. I said, what do you mean? She goes, about 2 hours ago, Vice President Biden and his wife came in. The place was mobbed. Everybody said hello, took pictures. And then she looked at me and she said, and we need you to know that he bought ice cream for everybody in the store.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's like, here's my credit card.
Hey, Senator, we just lost a legend in Indiana, the former First Lady. She spent 8 years with Evan Bayh in the Indiana State, in the mansion, the governor's mansion. And then while Evan was senator for 12 years, she was Evan's Evan's teammate, Evan's right arm. And obviously we just lost her. And I've been asking, a former First Lady in Indiana, why the state flags haven't been ordered to go at half-mast for a former First Lady. It doesn't get, obviously I know you and Susan were very close, and you and Evan are very close. It seems weird to me that we're not at half-mast across the state of Indiana in honor of Susan Bayh.
I don't know the answer to that. We should be, because as you indicated, a lot like you, Tom, and a lot like me as well, the person you always look to for advice first and last is your partner.
That's right.
And Evan was very much, you're that way with Marissa, I'm that way with Jill, and Evan was very much that way with Susan. And Susan was a staggeringly talented person who did extraordinary things for our state, for the children of our state. And her battle, she battled brain cancer for I think it was 2 years and 8 months. And so she was so far outside the window of what could be expected. But that's Susan. Mm-hmm. And Evan told me, a month or two ago before she passed, I was talking to him. He said, Joe, she's never complained once, not once. Wow. And when he would talk to her, her thought it was never about her. It was always, I'm going to miss you and the boys so much, Bo and Nick. And so it was always about them. And she's like, I'm sorry I won't be there for you. And so that's who she was. Wow. And we were incredibly blessed to be touched by her. And Kevin, I know you're as lucky as the rest of us, that you look and you go, how could one person, she touched so many lives in the state.
Without a doubt.
Very sad.
And it was a sad passing, and I know Evan and Bo and Nick have everybody's condolences from here and around the state. And I know the mayor's flown the flags at half-mast in Hammond for at least almost a week now. So.
And Evan knows how much he's loved here. And that's one of the things he always says is, how lucky are we to have represented a state where there's so many great people.
And he's still loved. And,
yes.
And Susan is still loved. And in Hammond, we're showing half-mast. I know other cities and towns are doing it, but I just think it's something, in my opinion, the governor should have stepped up and said, until she's buried, all flags across the state should be at
State House. And
doesn't make any sense to me. But
not hard to do.
Not
I
hard
agree.
To do
It doesn't cost a penny. It's just a total respect thing, But, Senator, I don't want to keep you all day. We really appreciate you coming on LockPod. You're one of my heroes, one of my mentors. Somebody I want to be like when I grow up, and
he's still getting there.
Well,
I am.
You're one of my dear friends. I'm still jealous of your career in the submarine service of our Navy and of our country, and so every time I think of you, I think of those subs with nuclear weapons, and I'm glad that you're working on the other side of the boat.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah. I appreciate it very much, and we're looking forward to your next visit to Lockpod. Senator Joe Donnelly, Indiana was so proud. We're so lucky to have you, and we still are, and we're looking forward to what's next in your career, Senator.
Thanks, Tom. We are so grateful for your service to our country in the Navy, your service to our state, and to the city of Hammond. And I know there's a lot more for you ahead. And Kevin, for all of your great things. And please tell Marissa and your families I said hi.
Thanks, Senator.
Thanks, Joe.
Good. Nice talking to you. Take care, Joe. That was great, wasn't it?
Senator Joe Donnelly, episode 50.
John, you did it.
John, take a deep breath.
I know.
Good job.
John was purple the whole interview.
We're
You
so
did it.
proud of you.
John, you did it. You did it, man. I thought today was going to be your
You
last
get the
week.
MVP today, John.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, I'm but sitting here at the producer's desk, I'm looking at these comments, and I'm seeing conservatives and liberals alike just love Joe.
Well, but isn't that what it's? I mean, that's what politics should really be like. If you have a guy that is doing his job,
pulling people
and
together,
making sure things get done, and want to get things done from both sides of the aisle, that's who you want as your senator.
That's right.
You don't. I mean, when you have somebody too far to the left or too far to the right, that's
50% of America is unacceptable.
That's right.
Yeah, like Joe brings people together.
That's right.
John McCain brought people together.
Absolutely.
Joe Kernan, by the way, another South Bend guy, brought people together.
Yep.
And those are the guys I emulate myself after. That's why people give me crap about loving John McCain. John McCain and Joe Donnelly are very similar types of people.
Without a doubt.
And that's the type of person I want to be.
Right. And like, you have a guy like Lindsey Graham, who supposedly was John McCain's, best friend.
Right.
John McCain's been rolling over in his grave for what the stuff Lindsey Graham's doing now, because it just doesn't reflect. Really, I don't think John McCain's ideals. If Lindsey Graham is a protege of John McCain, he sure isn't showing it. I guess that's what I would say.
That was a good show.
I actually met Joe once. I'm sure he doesn't remember. It was in French Lick. This was
Very
a few
cool.
years ago.
No, he told me that was the highlight of his life.
Anyway,
I'm listening,
no,
John.
John,
I'm listening.
It was during one of these receptions in the hotel with the circular main room.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Anyways,
that's the West Baden.
Yeah, West Baden.
West Baden.
There you
Right.
go. Beautiful
He
place.
got up on this chair and just gave this speech, just off the cuff kind of thing. And I remember, especially as a conservative, I was like, "Wow, this is impressive, man."
He's money, man.
He is just a good guy. I think like right here, the name of our podcast, Left to Center, right? I mean, Joe fits right in.
Yeah.
He fits right into that mold. And even the fact that he voted up Gorsuch, down Kavanaugh, I just think that just shows that he's thoughtful about his votes.
Yes.
It's not
I'm
like
not
he's
a
sitting
rubber
here being
stamp.
like, I'm going to do this.
I'm not just doing what the
Right.
Democrats tell me to
That's
do.
right.
I'm actually going to think about these
Go
things.
figure.
That's right. Which is what we want in
Why would
America.
you-
That's what we were saying during the campaign. You got Braun in there. Great. He's
Yeah.
closed-minded. He's sleeping during the impeachment. And then he's the one that beat out Joe, the most reasonable, moderate, perfect guy we ever elected to the Senate, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And now we've got a partisan.
Now we got a guy who went to sleep during the impeachment. Congratulations, Indiana.
He's a
Are we
millionaire,
better
though.
off? Yeah.
And
He's
that's incredible, the 17-point swing after voting no for Kavanaugh.
Right. Think about that.
Holy, man.
Well, that just goes to show you where the country was then. I mean, it was up in arms.
Still.
It was up in arms, and it still is, yeah.
I don't know if
I
it's
mean,
getting
really-
better or worse.
So, yeah, I think it's getting worse, personally.
I don't know. I don't think it could have got much worse than when Trump was in office. I hope. But
Well, no, I'm talking more like
last couple months
the division
especially.
in the country is not improving at
I
all.
don't
I think
know.
that with Joe Biden, I think no matter who was elected president, it would still have gotten worse.
I think the temperature seems to be a little less than where it was. Like when President Trump was tweeting every day,
Well,
like the fact
that's
that he's
true.
not. I mean, like the fact
That's
that we
true.
don't have to worry every day about some crazy tweet.
I don't think
and
the
just
tweets helped at all. I agree.
No,
but like
it
the
just-
fact that that's not going on is certainly not. That's better.
It's
for
not
everybody.
hurting.
Right?
That's
But
for
I agree
sure.
with what I see where Lindsay's coming from. Is you have this resistance to Joe Biden's. No matter what Joe does, we're against it no matter what. That's unhealthy. And part of the reason is going back to what Joe Donnelly was talking about earlier is redistricting reform. It's so important because when you don't have redistricting reform, you're allowed to have people that go in and act like jackasses.
You don't have to go to the middle.
Right.
You
They don't
can
wanna
say,
go-
my district is so pro-Trump or my district is so pro-Obama that I can just stay over here on the left or I
Right.
can stay over here on the
and
right.
it's like, I will never work with a Democrat. And they're like,
I don't-
that's
'cause
my
you don't
guy.
have
right?
to.
That's right. It's
You don't have
ridiculous.
to.
It's
and,
ridiculous.
And by the way, you start thinking about, as that elected official, you start thinking, well, if let's just say now, I go against Trump, heck, Trump won my district 70-30
Right.
or 80-20. I mean, how can you know what I mean? Then you're risking your own. And at the end of the day, most elected officials always say they want to be reelected, so they're going to watch what they're doing because they know what their electorate is.
Right.
So that's a scary thing.
We could have talked to Joe for another hour.
Yeah.
I wanted to get him off after 45
Such
minutes.
good stories.
Well, yeah, we could have kept going for sure, but I do want him to come back. And I don't think we should ever keep a guest on for too long because we don't want them to think every time he comes on Lockpot he's going to be
Got to sit here and
talking
tell
for 2
stories
hours.
for you. Right?
But like we will have Joe back on, obviously. I don't think we're done hearing from Senator Joe.
Are you saying we're going beyond episode 50? It's not.
Yeah,
it's not over.
What the
we're
hell?
going
We'll
to
have
go
a
for it.
couple more.
John,
Let's
are
have a
you
couple
quitting?
more. Are you all right,
Make it
John?
to.
John,
We'll
what
have
do
a
you
couple
think?
more.
After
sticking
that Skype, today, John, it was
Yeah.
so good. You got the MVP of the
Yeah,
show.
we could go. Let's push to 60, see what happens.
John's like maybe.
I'll give
50
you. I'll give you
let's
10 more episodes.
55 maybe.
I'll give you 10 more.
I'll sign another 10 episode contract.
10 episode contract. So 60,
Well,
we'll
for all that money.
reevaluate.
Yeah, we got 5
Maybe.
weeks.
Hey, maybe that'll be our cliffhanger. On at the end of
Will
At
John
the
make
end
it
of
past
season
episode
2, will
60?
John come back?
that would be 22 episodes. So we'll do 10 more episodes, and then we have to go to the producers and see if we're going to get renewed for another season. Okay?
So season 2 ends at episode 60.
Yeah, we got 10 more
You
episodes.
just decided this.
It's just nice. 22
Why?
episodes.
Why?
Because what did we do? 38 episodes the
30,
first time?
some weird number, 39 or 38.
That's too
39
many.
and a half.
Let's just get into season 2 now. We're at
38
39.
is too many. 22 is probably the right number.
I
in my
say we
opinion.
take it to the end of June.
Really?
Well, I
Let's
don't
split
know.
it like June and
we don't even know what
December
Lindsay's role
breaks.
is. She's sitting there like dictating rules.
She's in her-
to
yeah,
us.
she's in her-
Wow.
Last time I checked, she was
Oh
a
my
nurse.
We can't even
Gosh.
figure out if it's featuring, starring,
No.
co-star. Like, and she's like telling us
Nursing.
what to do.
I'm feeling
Guest.
mighty disrespected right now.
That was great, guys.
We love you, Linz.
Still,
Whatever.
the comments rolling in for Joe are just seriously, they're just still coming. It's great.
Hey, how goes the search for the business manager for this sinking
I
ship?
think we're going to talk post-show about this.
I think
Really?
we
We're
got
close.
it.
Yeah,
I think we're
stop
close.
talking about it in public.
Yeah, we're
I
close.
like doing things in public.
Yes.
I keep getting so many freaking emails from
We're-
Indeed.com.
Really?
I think we've made a decision,
It's-
but we're talking
Really?
afterwards.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You get any obscene pictures, Lindsay?
No.
Can you imagine?
Who would do that? They're
That's not a
applying
good
for-
way to
would
get a
not.
job.
They would not get the job.
Through Indeed.
Maybe.
They're
Or
just
maybe they
sending
would.
They're
nudes.
just sending nudes through Indeed.
It all depends who
.com.
reviews
I wonder
that
if Eva's
resume.
getting the nudes from Bumble.
Oh.
I mean, Lisa. My bad, Eva.
Eva.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
All
Hey,
right.
Eva told you to stop disrespecting me.
Oh,
Let's
thank you,
just
Eva.
disrespect
I love
Eva
you. I
then.
want Eva to come in for a show.
And maybe we could put her
I think
Bumble
she should.
profile on.
We should. Let's bring in Eva next show. Just
Let her
interview
roll through Bumble.
We'll like have her give us her Bumble.
We'll
experience.
vote left or right, how she should swipe.
Oh.
That would be great.
A lot of comments they're backing me up, so you
course
guys
they
better
are.
check yourself before you wreck yourself.
We know we know you're well liked, Linz. That we
Check
know
yourself before you wreck yourself.
that.
I did too.
that. Cheese and rice.
Oh, wow. Rebecca
Cheese
says
and rice.
500 episodes isn't even enough.
Oh.
500. I love
Can you
Rebecca.
imagine 500 episodes?
Yeah.
Kill me
10
now,
times
man.
what we've just done.
We'll still be. Yeah. So anyway, I think that was good.
I think it was.
We should call it a wrap
Yeah, let's
before we
wrap it
screw
up.
things up too much. I was
Good
going to
call.
go into a couple of stories, but I'll wait till the next time because there's going to be a lot of people listening to this because of Joe Donnelly.
Yep.
And I don't want to do stories that we're going to detract from the seriousness
agree.
of the great interview we just did.
We'll get.
But we will be doing silly stories on Tuesday, I promise
We'll
you.
be light again on Tuesday.
Right. Thanks, Senator Joe, for blessing us on our 50th episode with a great guest appearance.
Thank you to our listeners for 50
Yes.
episodes. How
And
about
to our
that?
sponsors for sponsoring us. I'm surprised every time we read off sponsors, and we appreciate you very much. My co-host is the best, Kevin Smith. Great lawyer, too, by the way. So
Thanks, Mayor.
if you get sued, Smith Sursic is the place. Ask for Steve. In my opinion, that's just my...
That's the smart move. We know
And
that.
John Vesmar only took 50 episodes, but we finally got Skype straight. Good job. I'm sure 50 episodes from now we'll have some new thing that most podcasts already have, but we appreciate it very much.
Well, right now I've got EPL blinking on
I love
screen,
it.
so we're really getting.
That is
fancy.
We're doing some cool
Dude, I
stuff
saw that
here.
kind of stuff when I was 13 playing
I was
video
going to
games.
say, that reminds me of a Pong
Yeah,
graphic.
right? Yeah. And
But good
Lindsay,
work, John.
Featuring Lindsay McDermott. Is it featuring?
Featuring.
We got to figure out her role.
Featuring is good.
Featuring Lindsay McDermott. I like
Mhm.
that because it makes her sound like a star.
But she's not Lindsay McDermott.
That
so you
makes
keep-
me
Oh,
sound. That makes me sound temporary, though. Like a
Agreed.
featuring artist
That's right.
only shows up.
You got to
once
perform.
in a
what it sounds
while.
like,
You
all
got to
right.
perform.
Wow. Okay.
I don't want
Way
you
to
secure.
make me feel
I don't want you
insecure
thinking-
in my position on
You
this
know what?
podcast.
Hey,
Nothing secure.
Just
we already
been
learned how to
here
do
since
Indeed.
the beginning.
We'll do Indeed for the featuring
We
part
just like
too,
it when
if you
the
don't watch
power's
it.
on every
Do it.
Tuesday
I
and
dare
Friday.
you. I dare you.
Feature Lockpod featuring Lindsay.
If
Mysterious
I leave,
Mrs.
my
Prosko.
girls leave with me. So
Uh-oh.
What's
watch
the girls?
yourself. The girls that are backing me up in the comments.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
They're
didn't
out.
know if that was like a woman thing when you say my girls are leaving with me.
Well,
Because like if I said my boys are leaving with me, I'm not talking about Kevin Smith.
Let's just leave it there.
Yeah, that's
Episode
right.
50.
Episode-
Thank you,
Joe Donnelly.
Donnelly.
Joe Donnelly. Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Thank you, Joe.
Tuesday, we'll get back to normal. We appreciate U.S. Senator Joe Donnelly. We appreciate you and everybody for watching us for 50 episodes. We will see you on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.